Eleor wiped sweat from his forehead as the harsh wind of the desert planet swept across the mining colony. The sun, a pale orange disk in the dusty sky, burned relentlessly on the metallic surfaces of the outpost. He crouched beside the broken probe, inspecting the exposed circuits with steady hands. Every wire, every chip mattered. If this probe didn't work, the colony's vital mineral scans would fail, and resources could be wasted. He didn't notice the small vibration of the ground at first. Then a sudden roar of frustration pierced the air, and he looked up. Kara stormed into the courtyard, her boots kicking up red dust. Her dark hair whipped around her face as she glared at the damaged probe. Eleor straightened instinctively, not out of fear, but because he had learned over the years that confrontation could come in many forms, and Kara was a storm all on her own. "Are you seriously taking your sweet time with that thing?" She snapped, her voice sharp and controlled, though her anger trembled at the edges. "We could have scanned the eastern ridge 3 hours ago if someone hadn't been so slow." Eleor raised an eyebrow but remained calm. "Kara, this isn't something you can rush. One wrong connection and the probe is useless. It's delicate work." "Delicate?" she said, taking a step closer. Her eyes blazed. "You call this slowpoke tinkering delicate? We have a mission. We can't wait for you to finish polishing wires." Eleor straightened fully, the dust clinging to his clothes and hair. "Polishing wires? Really? I am saving you from wasting time and resources, which I assume you like to call a mission." The air between them crackled. It wasn't the first time Kara had come at him with anger. She was fearless, brash, and utterly impatient. And Eleor? He was calm, methodical, and stubborn in his own quiet way. Their personalities clashed like fire and stone, yet somehow, over the years, they had always survived. If not peacefully, then with grudging respect. Kara's hand shot forward suddenly, slapping his shoulder. The force wasn't enough to hurt him, but it carried the weight of frustration and surprise. "You think you can tell me what to do?" she barked. Eleor held up his hands in surrender. "I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what will keep us alive and productive." "Alive?" Her voice cracked with both anger and disbelief. "We're not going to die if I scan the ridge myself. You think you're so clever." Before Eleor could respond, a sharp tremor ran through the ground. The colony's metal walkways shuddered beneath them, sending loose gravel skittering across the red dust. Both froze. In the distance, the wind carried a low, eerie rumble, something unfamiliar and dangerous. Eleor crouched again, checking the probe for signs of stress. "That didn't feel natural," he murmured. "It wasn't. The wind. Something is moving out there." Kara's eyes narrowed. For a moment, the anger softened into alertness. "Something like what?" "I don't know yet," Eleor admitted, carefully analyzing the faint disturbances in the sand. "But it's big, and it's fast." Kara glanced at him, irritation, still present but mixed with the flicker of concern. "You mean we could be in real danger?" "Exactly." Eleor's voice remained calm, but the urgency in his posture betrayed his concern. "We need to stay close to the outpost and avoid the open desert. It might be some kind of predator native to this planet. I've never seen anything like it, but it's clever. It knows how to hide." Kara crossed her arms, her anger slowly giving way to curiosity. "So what? We just sit here and hope it doesn't find us?" Eleor shook his head. "No, we prepare, we stay alert, and we trust our instincts." He stood and held out his hand. "Now help me finish this probe. It might be the only thing keeping us safe if we get caught outside." Kara stared at him for a long moment. Her pride wrestled with the realization that Eleor's way, methodical and cautious, might be smarter than her impulsive approach. Finally, with a sharp huff, she said, "Fine. But if we die because of your careful tinkering, I'll haunt you in the afterlife." Eleor smiled faintly, not offended in the slightest. "I'll take my chances." They worked side by side, Kara reluctantly following his instructions. She handed him tools, double-checked connections, and even offered suggestions, though her impatience sometimes made her bite her tongue too late. The tension between them was electric. Yet there was a rhythm forming, a silent understanding that they depended on each other, even if neither wanted to admit it. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the desert landscape, the probe finally hummed to life. A small light blinked on its panel, signaling success. Elior leaned back, wiping his brow again. "Done," he said simply. Kara exhaled sharply, a mixture of relief and irritation. "Done. And somehow, it's all your fault I didn't die of boredom waiting for you." Elior chuckled softly. "I'll consider that a compliment." They didn't notice the faint shadow flicker behind the nearest ridge, or the glint of alien eyes reflecting the dying sunlight. For now they were safe, at least for a moment. But the desert was patient and the unknown always waited. Kara took a step closer to Elior, lowering her voice. "You know, maybe you're not completely useless." Elior glanced at her, amused. "I'll take partial praise. It's more than I expected from you." For the first time in their encounter, a small smile touched her face. And for Elior, the calm certainty of survival felt balanced by the subtle warmth of a connection neither of them had fully acknowledged. And far in the distance something stirred, something waiting for the perfect moment to strike, carrying a faint metallic scent from the machinery. Elior and Kara stood together, looking toward the distant ridge, still alert. The tension from earlier hadn't completely faded. Kara's anger had softened, but her eyes were sharp, scanning the horizon as if expecting danger. "I don't like this," she said, her voice low. The ground trembled again, and that shadow, it didn't feel natural. Elior nodded. "Agreed. Something is moving beneath the surface. I've never felt a tremor like that on this planet. It's not geological. Whatever it is, it's intelligent or at least clever enough to hide." Kara frowned. "Great. Intelligent predator. That's comforting." Before Elior could respond, the tremor returned, stronger this time. The ground beneath their feet shook violently, throwing loose gravel into the air. Kara stumbled, grabbing onto Elior's arm to steady herself. "See? I told you," she exclaimed, half angry, half afraid. Elior steadied her. "We need to move. Now. Stay close." The two of them ran toward the outpost, dust swirling around their boots. The colony was small, just enough to house a handful of miners and engineers. Its metal walls offered minimal protection, but inside they could at least regroup and plan. As they approached, a sudden shadow flickered across the ridge. Kara froze, her hand instinctively going to her sidearm. "There, did you see that?" Elior squinted. He could barely make out a shape. Long limbs, almost fluid in motion, blending with the red rocks. It moved faster than anything humanly possible. His heart beat faster, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Yes, that's it. That's what caused the tremors. We need to stay alert." The creature, or whatever it was, emerged fully for a brief second. Its eyes glinted like shards of glass in the fading light, and its body was sleek, covered in scales that reflected the sun. Then, just as suddenly, it disappeared behind the rocks. Kara's hand tightened on her weapon. "It's huge. And it's fast. I can't believe we're out here with just tools and guns." Elior's mind raced. "We're not just out here with tools. We have intelligence, strategy, and each other. That counts for more than brute force." Kara glanced at him, unsure whether to be annoyed or impressed. "You really believe that will help us?" "I do," Elior said calmly. "And right now, we need to plan. First, we secure this outpost. Then we figure out its patterns." Inside the small outpost, they barricaded the doors and windows with spare metal panels. Dust filtered through the cracks, but at least they had some cover. Elior checked the probe's signals while Kara scanned outside with binoculars, searching for movement. Minutes passed, tense and silent except for the wind. Then a low growl echoed from the ridge. Kara froze, straining to listen. "It's close, too close," Elior nodded. "We might not have time to observe its full pattern. If it attacks, we need to be ready to act fast. Stay calm and follow my lead." The growl grew louder, accompanied by a scraping sound like claws on rock. The creature was moving toward them. Its intelligence became clearer. It wasn't just wandering. It was hunting. Kara swallowed hard. Her bravado faltered for the first time. "So, what's the plan?" Elior pointed to a corner of the outpost. "We use the probe as bait. It emits energy signals, right? The creature seems attracted to vibrations and energy. We can lure it into a trap using the terrain outside. I'll handle the mechanics, you handle the firepower." Kara's eyes narrowed. "You mean I shoot it while you play engineer?" "Exactly," Elior said. "We work together. It's our only chance." They slipped outside carefully, staying low to the ground. The desert was quiet except for the occasional gust of wind. The creature's growls were now audible, vibrating through the sand. Elior set up the probe at a distance, adjusting its signal to pulse intermittently. The soft, blinking light mimicked a heartbeat, drawing the predator's attention. "Ready?" Elior whispered. Kara nodded, gripping her weapon. "Ready." The first movement came like a shadow over the ridge. The predator leaped down, fluid and fast. Its eyes locked onto the probe, ignoring the humans. It lunged, at the mechanical device with Terrify. Night had fully settled over the desert colony. The pale light of twin moons bathed the red sands in a soft, silvery glow. Elior and Kara remained at the edge of the canyon, keeping a careful watch on the shadows. The alien predator they had, lured earlier, had disappeared into the darkness, but both of them knew it was still out there, waiting. Elior adjusted the probe signal, keeping the pulsing light steady. Kara crouched beside him, weapon ready, her eyes scanning every ripple in the sand. The earlier tension between them had eased, replaced by a quiet focus. Their teamwork, though newly forged, already felt natural. Suddenly, a rustling sound erupted from the ridge above. Kara turned sharply, raising her weapon. "It's back!" she shouted. The creature leapt from the shadows, its massive frame striking with terrifying speed. Elior shouted, "Move!" He grabbed Kara's arm, pulling her down as the predator landed where she had just been standing. Its claws dug into the rock with a screech, sending debris flying. Kara barely caught herself, heart racing. The predator's eyes glinted in the moonlight, following every movement. It was intelligent, calculating, and clearly hunting them. Elior's mind raced. He knew they couldn't outrun it. They had to outsmart it. "Stay low," he hissed. He grabbed a metal rod from his belt and jammed it into the sand, setting a simple trap designed to destabilize the ground beneath the predator's weight. "When it lunges again, it'll slip." Kara's eyes widened. "You're insane." "Trust me," Elior yelled. The predator snarled and charged, faster than either human could react. Kara fired her weapon, but the creature dodged with unnatural agility. It lunged for Kara directly, its jaws snapping. Elior saw the moment it would strike and pushed with all his strength. Kara stumbled, falling to the side. The predator's claws missed her by inches but caught Elior's arm instead, tearing his sleeve and leaving a shallow cut. "Are you okay?" Kara shouted, scrambling to her feet. "I'm fine." Elior winced, ignoring the pain. "Focus on the trap." The predator tried to leap again, but the sand beneath it gave way just as Elior had planned. It slid awkwardly, crashing into the canyon wall with a frustrated roar. Kara saw her chance. She fired a precise shot at the creature's flank, stunning it temporarily. The predator hissed and backed off, clearly wary of these two humans who were smarter than expected. Elior didn't waste a second. He grabbed a coil of wiring from his pack and ran toward the probe, setting it to emit a high-pitched pulse. The predator froze, confused by the new signal, giving Elior the opening he needed. Kara joined him, keeping her weapon trained on the creature. "What's the plan now?" she asked, panting. "We lure it into the canyon again," Elior said, pointing to a narrower passage. "It won't be able to move as freely there. Once it's confined, we can contain it safely." Together they coaxed the predator toward the trap. Elior moved deliberately, using his knowledge of its behavior to guide it, while Kara's shots kept it off balance. The alien hissed and growled, realizing it was being outsmarted. It lunged one last time, but this time it fell into the narrow passage, confined by the canyon walls. Its movements became restricted, and it hesitated, unsure how to escape. Kara let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. "We did it. It's trapped." Elior nodded, though his gaze stayed on the predator. "For now. But we need to be careful. It's clever and patient. It might try again later." Suddenly, the predator's gaze shifted. Kara had stepped slightly ahead, curious about the alien's behavior. The creature lunged again, faster than before, aiming directly at her. In an instant, Elior acted without thinking. He threw himself in front of her, taking the brunt of the attack. The predator's claws scraped his shoulder and tore his jacket, but the angle saved Kara from injury. "Kara! Move!" he shouted, rolling to the side to push her out of harm's way. Her eyes widened in shock. For the first time, Kara saw him, not as a calm engineer or an annoying partner, but as someone willing to risk himself for her life. She fired her weapon rapidly, keeping the creature distracted as Elior scrambled to his feet. Together, they managed to corner it again, forcing it back into the canyon. Elior leaned heavily against a rock, panting. Kara rushed to his side. "You? Idiot. You could have been killed," she exclaimed, her voice trembling with worry. I couldn't let it hit you," Elior said, wincing as he inspected the shallow cut on his arm. "We survive better together." Kara's anger from earlier seemed to vanish entirely. She took his hand, examining the wound with careful fingers. "You saved me. I can't believe it." Elior shrugged, a small smile breaking through his exhaustion. "Someone had to, and we both know running from it wouldn't have worked." For the first time, Kara allowed herself to relax, the fear giving way to gratitude and a budding respect. I owe you," she whispered. "You don't owe me anything," Elior said softly. "We're a team. That's all that matters." They stayed there for a moment, catching their breath under the moonlit sky. The predator growled from the canyon, but for now it was contained. Its red eyes glinted in the darkness, aware of the human's cleverness but unable to strike. Kara finally exhaled fully, letting the tension leave her body. "You know," she said quietly, almost to herself, "I hit you earlier in anger, and now I realize you'd do anything to protect me." Elior met her gaze, understanding in his eyes. "We've survived worse than anger, Kara. That's what makes humans strong. Courage, intelligence, and care for one another." A small smile curved her lips. For the first time, she didn't hide the warmth in her eyes. "Maybe you're not as boring as I thought. And you're not as reckless as I feared," he teased gently, though both knew the truth. They balanced each other. The predator's presence reminded them that danger could strike at any moment, yet they had discovered something far more important: trust. As the desert night continued, they stood together side by side, stronger and more united than ever before. Somewhere in the distance, the alien predator waited, patient and watchful. But for Elior and Kara, the night was a victory, not just over the creature, but over doubt, anger, and fear. They had saved each other, and in the process, discovered a bond that neither time nor desert storms could break. The desert night was quiet now, save for the distant echo of the confined predator somewhere deep within the canyon. The twin moons cast pale light across the red sands, painting the outpost in silver. Elior and Kara walked back slowly, tired but alert. The adrenaline from the recent encounter was fading, leaving both of them drained, yet strangely connected. Elior's shoulder throbbed where the predator had scratched him. Kara noticed immediately, her earlier anger completely gone. "You really didn't have to throw yourself in front of it," she said, her voice soft but serious. "You could have been seriously hurt." Elior managed a tired smile. "And let you face it alone? Not a chance. That would have been reckless." Kara shook her head, dusting sand from her boots. "Reckless is exactly what you are sometimes. But thank you. I owe you more than I can say." They reached the outpost, and Kara helped Elior inside. He sat on a small cot while she rummaged through the first aid kit. Her movements were careful, precise, almost gentle. For a woman usually so fiery and independent, there was a vulnerability now that made her seem human, relatable, and real. "Let me see it," she said, gesturing to his shoulder. Elior rolled up his sleeve. A shallow cut marked where the predator's claws had grazed him. Kara cleaned it carefully and applied a bandage. Her hands lingered for a moment longer than necessary, and Elior caught a glimpse of concern in her eyes. "Better?" she asked, tying the bandage securely. "Much better," he replied with a small chuckle. "I think you're learning patience." Finally. Kara rolled her eyes, though the smile she gave him betrayed her amusement. "Patience is overrated," she said lightly. "But I suppose some things are worth being careful about." For a while, they sat in quiet, listening to the wind outside. Their earlier tension dissolved into a shared calm. The desert was dangerous, unpredictable, yet in that small outpost they found safety, and perhaps something more. After a moment, Kara broke the silence. "I never really asked, why are you so calm all the time? Most people would be panicking after what just happened." Elior considered her question. "I've learned that panic doesn't help. Thinking clearly does, and acting too quickly can get you killed." He looked at her seriously. "But bravery matters too, and sometimes caring about someone else matters more than thinking clearly." Kara looked at him, processing his words. "Caring about someone else, huh?" She gave a small, shy smile. "Guess I'm starting to understand that now." They shared a quiet laugh, the kind that eased tension and created connection. Outside, the desert remained silent, but inside, a sense of camaraderie and trust began to grow between them. As they spoke, Kara opened up about her past. She told Elior about her years as a pilot, racing across dangerous planets, surviving storms, and facing dangers she hadn't even imagined. She admitted that she had always relied on her speed, reflexes, and independence, sometimes refusing help even when she needed it. Elior listened quietly, absorbing every word. He shared his own story, years spent in research and engineering, quietly solving problems often behind the scenes unnoticed. His bravery was measured, deliberate, and often unseen, but it was no less real than Kara's boldness. "You know," Kara said softly, "we're not that different, are we?" The desert sun rose slowly, painting the red sands in a soft golden light. Elior and Kara emerged from the outpost, stretching their stiff muscles after a night of tense vigilance. The air was crisp, carrying a faint metallic scent from the nearby machinery. Though the predator had been confined the night before, both knew the danger was far from over. "Do you think it stayed put?" Kara asked, scanning the canyon with binoculars. Elior shook his head. "It's intelligent, patient. It probably learned something from yesterday. We need to be ready for anything." Kara sighed, rubbing her temples. "I hate that we're stuck on alert again. I just want one calm day without some alien surprise." Elior smiled faintly. "Calm is rare on this planet, but together we can handle it." Their task for the morning was simple but vital: reinforce the canyon traps and scout the surrounding desert. Elior adjusted the probe signal, ensuring the Q energy pulses would continue to confuse the predator. Kara checked her weapons, ensuring they were loaded and ready. The teamwork that had been forming between them now felt natural. As they worked, Kara finally spoke about her fears. "Yesterday, I realized I underestimated you. I thought being calm all the time was boring, but it saved my life." Elior glanced at her, surprised by the vulnerability in her voice. "I never wanted to be boring," he said softly. "I just want to survive, and help others survive with me." A brief smile passed between them, a silent acknowledgement of trust, but there was no time to linger in sentiment. A faint tremor ran through the sand, almost imperceptible at first. Then, a deep growl rolled over the ridge. The predator was moving. Kara's eyes narrowed. "It's back, and it's angrier this time. Elior nodded. Exactly what I feared. Stay close and follow my lead. The predator emerged from behind the ridge, larger than they remembered, its sleek body glinting in the sunlight. Its eyes were locked on the probe, but it clearly knew humans were nearby. It hissed, a warning that sent shivers down their spines. Kara raised her weapon instinctively. We can't let it escape again. No, Elior agreed. But rushing in won't help. We need strategy. Together, they led the predator toward the canyon traps. Elior used a combination of hand signals and small energy pulses from the probe to guide its movements. Kara stayed a few steps ahead, firing carefully to keep it on course without provoking full aggression too soon. The aliens snarled and leapt several times, testing their patience and skill. You're a little too clever for your own good, Kara muttered under her breath, impressed despite herself. And you're learning patience, Elior replied quietly, smirking. As they approached the narrowest part of the canyon, the predator realized it was cornered. Its movements became more aggressive, but Elior's traps held firm. Loose rocks, shallow pitfalls, and energy pulses worked in tandem to limit the creature's mobility. Kara's shots kept it focused and wary, preventing it from turning toward them. Almost there, Elior whispered. Now when it tries to leap, it'll hit the barriers. The predator lunged suddenly, more violently than before. Rocks tumbled around it, and the canyon walls amplified its growls. Kara fired several precise shots, stunning it momentarily. But the predator was relentless, circling the canyon, testing every weak point. Elior's mind raced. He noticed a small gap where the creature could escape. Quickly, he adjusted the energy pulse on the probe and triggered a trap, causing the ground beneath the predator to shift. It stumbled, hissing in frustration. Kara didn't hesitate. She moved in, firing another stun shot. The predator faltered, then froze, completely confined at last. They both exhaled heavily, their bodies trembling from exhaustion and relief. We did it, Kara whispered, her voice a mix of awe and respect. For now, Elior corrected. It's clever and patient. It won't forget this lesson. Kara looked at him, her earlier vulnerability replaced with determination. Then we'll be ready, together. Elior smiled, appreciating her resolve. Exactly. Strategy plus courage. That's humans. As the predator writhed in the trap, Kara moved closer to Elior. You know, I've been thinking, she said, softly. Yesterday when you saved me, I felt something I didn't expect. Fear, yes, but also trust, and something else. Gratitude, maybe more than that. Elior looked at her quietly, sensing the emotion behind her words. It's okay to feel that, he said. It's what makes us human. Courage, intelligence, empathy, they're stronger together than alone. Kara's expression softened, a small smile forming. I think I understand that now, and I think I finally realize why you stay calm all the time. You don't just survive, you protect. And you don't just act, Elior replied. You learn. We balance each other. That's how we survive this desert, and everything else it throws at us. They spent the rest of the day reinforcing the canyon and surrounding terrain. Elior showed Kara how small adjustments to the trap could increase its effectiveness, while Kara's precise aim ensured the predator remained contained. Their teamwork had reached a new level, silent, confident, and deeply respectful. By sunset, the canyon was secured, the predator confined, and their camp fortified. They sat together outside the outpost, watching the sky turn shades of orange and purple. Exhaustion tugged at their bodies, but there was a quiet satisfaction in their work. You know, Kara said after a long pause, we make a pretty good team. I didn't think I'd ever say that to anyone. Elior chuckled softly. I've known it all along. You just needed a little proof. They shared a moment of silence, the desert stretching endlessly before them. Somewhere in the distance, the predator waited, patient and aware. But Elior and Kara had learned something far more important. Trust, teamwork, and courage could overcome even the most intelligent threats. Kara leaned back, letting the soft sand support her. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Elior nodded, his gaze steady. Together. The desert night approached, stars appearing in the sky. The predator's eyes glimmered in the shadows, but the humans were ready. They had survived, learned and grown stronger, not just from danger but from each other. For Elior and Kara, the battle against the desert was far from over. But one thing was certain. As long as they trusted one another, no threat, no matter how clever or fierce, could break them. And in that trust, in that partnership, they discovered a strength far greater than the desert's dangers. The power of human courage and connection. The desert was eerily quiet at dawn. The twin moons had faded, and the sun's first rays painted the red sands in gold and orange. Elior and Kara moved cautiously toward the canyon, checking the traps and reinforcing the probe signals. The previous day's victory over the predator had given them confidence, but they knew the creature was far from defeated. "It's been quiet," Kara whispered, scanning the horizon. "Too quiet." Elior nodded. "It's thinking. Patient predators are dangerous because they plan. We need to be ready for anything." Kara adjusted her weapon and smirked lightly. "Ready is my middle name." Elior allowed himself a small smile. "Good, because we'll need every bit of it today." Suddenly, a deep, menacing roar echoed from the canyon. The predator had returned, stronger and faster, clearly testing the humans' defenses. Its eyes glimmered with intelligence and fury. "There. It is," Kara shouted, raising her weapon. "It's coming." Elior signaled for calm. "Stay focused. Remember, strategy first." The predator lunged from the canyon edge, its massive claws tearing into the sand. This time, it was smarter, its movements more coordinated, almost anticipating their traps. Kara fired precise shots, slowing it, while Elior adjusted the probe's energy pulses, creating confusion and limiting its movement. "You're learning quickly," Elior said quietly, not taking his eyes off the predator. "And you're not. As boring as I thought," Kara replied, her focus unbroken, but a small smile touched her lips. The predator leapt toward Kara suddenly. Instinctively, she dodged, but the attack was too fast. Elior reacted instantly, pushing her out of the way. The predator's claws scratched his arm, leaving a shallow gash, but he managed to shield her from serious harm. "Kara, are you okay?" he shouted, straining against the creature. "I'm fine," she cried, catching her breath. Then, seeing the pain in his eyes, concern flooded her face. "You fool, you could have been killed." Elior gave a tired grin. "And you would have been dead without me. I couldn't risk it." Realizing the truth of his words, Kara's earlier anger melted completely. She steadied herself and fired a rapid sequence of shots, forcing the predator back. Using the canyon walls to their advantage, Elior triggered the final trap, a combination of pulsed energy from the probe and loose boulders that confined the predator in a narrow crevice. The predator hissed, struggled, then froze, unable to move freely. Both humans exhaled heavily, their bodies trembling from exhaustion. Kara stepped forward cautiously, lowering her weapon. She looked at Elior, her chest heaving. You saved my life again," she said softly. I don't know how to thank you enough." Elior shook his head, brushing sand from his clothes. "You don't have to thank me. We survived together. That's enough." For a long moment, Kara's anger and pride were gone, replaced by something softer. Trust, admiration, and something she hadn't fully understood until now. Slowly, she stepped closer to him, her hand brushing against his. I hit you yesterday in anger," she admitted quietly, almost embarrassed. "And I realized, it doesn't matter. You still saved me, you protected me, and I'm grateful, more than I can say."